Praise the Lord. It's that time of the day once again where we must engage ourselves in the business of the state of the union between Jesus and his bride, the church. Our series of daily broadcasts centered around the word of the Lord, saying to me, tell my people to return to me. Tell my people to return to me. And yesterday, in our broadcast of yesterday, we began to look at in telling God's people to return to him. How do I know that I'm involved? Today is the 26th of October, 2022. We have been about this business of daily broadcasts since on the 25th of December, 2021. That makes today, or if you like yesterday, the beginning of the 11th month. That means we have done this 10 months. And if we take an average of 30 days per month, it means we have done 300 episodes already. And from each of this series of broadcasts, we have looked at one or the other possibility about how we may have walked away from God, how we may have slackened in our pursuit of him, as it were, in following after him, or how we may have turned aside, being distracted, especially by things of this world, particularly our needs in this life. So we have looked at all this number of possibilities. And if you're joining us for the first time, really, I must invite you to avail yourself and give yourself the advantage by simply going back to look at the past editions of this series of broadcasts. Who knows, in all 300 past editions, yours might have been mentioned. How you have walked away from God, for which he is asking you to return, may just have been mentioned. We do not claim that what we have done or what we are doing is exhaustive. It's really just a pointer to the fact that God says, tell my people to return. To the fact that it is possible for God's people to turn away, to become distracted, to lose focus, and become involved in that which is not of God. So he says, so in saying, tell my people to return to me, he is actually saying that his people have turned away. And I said I got a message sometime yesterday morning, essentially saying that unless or until we return, there will be no healing, that the body is actually sick. Now that might be you, that might be me, that might be the entire corporate body. But the point is, God says, tell my people to return. And so yesterday we began to look at certain signs, symptoms, not signs and wonders, signs and symptoms, indicators that indeed one might have walked away. Indicators, something to help us recognize a situation of walk away, a situation of distraction, a situation where we might have turned away. And remember, the psalmist did say, God hates the work of them who turn aside. You see, a moment's distraction of turning your face away can just be all that is necessary for you to completely lose focus. Because if that thing catches you and catches you good, you just might never recover. Except for a time like this when God says, tell my people to return. So even if your particular situation is not mentioned, the fact that we're talking about it should inspire some introspection in us. some personal time of prayer, asking the Lord to show us perhaps our own way, our own error. So yesterday we began to look at some of the things which might help us recognize our state of turn away, as it were. A loss of focus, a loss of direction, a loss of inspiration, a loss of purpose, lack of fulfillment, and then no healing. No healing. Now, all these we looked at in yesterday's broadcast. Today, we continue in the same light. How can I know that I may have walked away from God, or that I may have backslidden, or that I may have turned aside? How can I know? So let's continue right away. The next item that we must consider, yesterday we stopped at the business of healing and vitality. If the Spirit that raised up Jesus dwells in you, He will quicken your mortal body. He will give life and vitality. He will give essence to your mortal body. Your mortal body, your physical human body. In the same way, if that same Spirit is in the church, maybe the church in a particular geographical location, let's say the church in Pergamos, the church in Laodicea, something was wrong and the Lord sent a message to that particular group. There was no healing. So today we start with the fact that once you have turned away and have turned away for long enough, we begin to lose our cutting edge. We begin to lose our relevance. There's no impact. There's no impact. Why? Particularly because we stop walking with the Holy Spirit. Once you turn away from Him, you're either going to turn to the spirit of this world, or you are going to turn to self, which is governed by the spirit of this world anyway. You lose your cutting edge. You lose your relevance. If you are a preacher, your message or messages become stale. I almost want to say, it seems you dwell more in the past, in our past glory. You seem to talk more about what God did in the past, because that's what you are comfortable with. That's where your confidence is. What you're really doing is trying to hoodwink the people into thinking that you are still together. You lose your cutting edge. You are no longer sharp and incisive, because you are no longer walking with the Spirit. You're no longer walking with the Spirit. And once you lose your cutting edge, one of the issues will be that you will also lose your sensitivity. It is your sensitivity to the Spirit that guarantees your cutting edge anyway, so that as the Spirit leads, you are moving with Him, and you are making inroads. There is an impact. You lose your cutting edge. You lose your relevance. You are no longer in touch with the realities of the Spirit for the moment. The next matter I want to pay attention to, or I want to draw our attention to, once we turn from the Lord, we begin to experience a sense of powerlessness. I didn't say helplessness. We'll get to that shortly. I said powerlessness. There is a lack of power. That which used to drive whatever you did becomes absent. Ask Samson about it. The Bible writes of him that he got up as before to shake himself free, but he did not know that the Lord had left him. He did not know that the Spirit of the Lord had left him. And so this time he was unable to set himself free, and he was taken captive. In Romans chapter 6, there about verse 13 or so, it says, that which you give yourself to obey, you become servant or slave to. You become powerless towards. Is it a habit? You become a slave to that habit. Is it something that you ought not to be doing? But once you give yourself over to it, you lose your power with God. And you become a slave to the thing. And it will usually be because you took your eyes away from God. So anything that seems to be able to defeat you, the possibility is that you were not walking with God. So if we say that God is ultimate power, if you experience defeat, if your experience is now that you are living in defeat, your experience is constant defeat. You can't seem to get over things that you should ordinarily get over. Perhaps the problem is that you have taken your eyes away from God. Because if you were still attentive to God, if your eyes were still trained on God, there would be inspiration, there would be direction, there would be healing. And the way to victory will soon be obvious. Powerlessness. You are unable to defeat what you should ordinarily be able to defeat. You are doing something the wrong way. Now, our next business, our next indicator that we may have walked away from God would be in the matter of stagnation. Stagnation. What does that mean? You are going around the same mountain for longer than necessary. That could be an explanation of stagnation. Stagnation just means there's no forward movement. There is no longer the flow. There's no flow. Now, as we know, if you were stagnant because the Spirit of the Lord wanted you to stand still, there will be a necessary direct consequence of that. You will be like a river that had slowed down and become mature. The silt or sediment that it was carrying when it was moving with speed would now begin to settle, and the water at the top will become clearer. That's a sign of maturity, when the vision starts to become clearer. When people begin to be when it becomes easier for people to relate with what you are doing. When you were in motion, you were carrying a lot of debris. But the moment the river slows down, or in fact stops moving, now all those silt, all that particle it was carrying starts to settle, and the water becomes clearer. Now the water can bless far more people because it is standing still. So it's clear. Now I'm talking from an African context. Back in the day, where we used to drink straight from the river. But on the flip side, when the water becomes stagnant, whatever body of water, whether it's a roadside pool, or water in the drains, or stagnant water in your swimming pool, so long as the water is not moving, it seems like the Dead Sea to gather a lot of moss, a lot of rubbish. You see stagnation. You begin to gather a lot of rubbish. Dead things, stale things become attached to you. There is no newness. There is no rejuvenation. The necessary impact of the Spirit is missing. And every time you open your mouth, staleness comes out. Because there is no connection. The connection is lost. Sometimes even dryness. Dryness sets in. And you know it. Because there is no refreshing. Because you have taken your mouth away from the tap or from the faucet. So you cannot be refilled. You cannot be refreshed. So you are just there. Stagnant, stale, dry. Another indicator. Yesterday we started to talk about God being the God, the author of light. So if God is light and you turn away from light, you necessarily automatically turn to darkness. So one of the indicators that you may have turned from God is the business of an absence of light. There is no illumination. Your way seems dark. You walk away from God, it seems like you stop hearing from God. Maybe not that you have actually stopped hearing, but because you have walked or turned away, his voice now seems to be distant, not as loud as it could be. Your sensitivity to the word wanes because you have turned to darkness. God says, tell my people to return. When you turn back to light, the full blast of the light shines on you, and every form of darkness immediately is reproved, is exposed. You read the Bible, but there does not seem to be any help from there. You go to church, the same thing. No illumination. And you may even think that the problem is the church. It might just be you. Everywhere you turn, darkness. And one of the direct offshoots of this fact of absence of light, not just your feeling of darkness, and you know in the dark, even if there was somebody standing next to you, in the dark you feel alone because you can't see anything. You know, Jesus said, I will not leave you comfortless. I will come to you again. And certain translations take that as, I will not leave you as orphans. What is it that is characteristic about orphans? That they are alone, without the experience of a parent or particularly a father figure. Jesus said, I will not leave you like orphans. I will come to you. I will send the Holy Spirit to you. What was he saying? And how does that pertain to us right now? When you turn from God that is light, you essentially turn to darkness, and darkness begins to reign in your circumstance. And now it seems to you that you are all alone, because in your darkness you can't see anything else. You can only be conscious of yourself. And so the orphan spirit seems to have caught up with you. You are alone. There's no comforting. Everywhere you turn, there's no illumination. You can't seem to find your way out of your circumstance or even to move forward. It seems you are all by yourself. But that's because you have turned from the one who said, I will never leave you or forsake you. You have turned from the one who said, Lo, I am with you always. You have turned from the one who said, I will come to you again, so that where I am, you will be there also. And finally, in this state of aloneness, in this thing that looks like the manifestation of the orphan spirit, one of the characteristics will be that there will be no help. It will seem that there is no help. You will feel utterly helpless. That will be because you have turned from the help that God sent originally, which is the Holy Spirit. He said He is our ever-present help. Ever-present help. If you feel helpless, it is simply because you are not in tune with the ever-present help. He said ever-present. Not going and coming help. Not I will send help. Ever-present help in time of need. He is ever-present. If you can even get to the point of feeling helpless, perhaps the problem is you have turned away from the ever-present help. It is perhaps a family relative of aloneness. There is no help. Therefore, and there is no comforting. There is no help. There is no comforting. And you will soon cry out. Whether you are by yourself, whether in your marriage or a relationship, or you are a minister or a pastor, whatever you may be, you will soon cry out. It seems like I'm doing this all by myself. If that is your feeling, perhaps you need to run to God. You need to go in search of God. You are feeling that way, maybe because there's something wrong in your connection with heaven. Perhaps you have turned away. Perhaps you are backsliding from something you are supposed to be doing. Or you have even become distracted by something. You know, God does not make judgment calls or characterizations unjustly, so that He will be a just God when He delivers His judgment or opinion. He lets us see how we have gone wrong. He lets us understand so that we can find our way back. There will be signs, there will be indicators, there will be symptoms, manifestations of the fact that we have turned away from God. Yet He says, tell my people to return. And we must close at this point. But we will be back, perhaps with another dimension of tell my people to return to me. Who knows? We might even continue from where we have stopped. But we leave that to God. But let's keep our eyes on Him. Him who said, follow me. I'll see you again with our next broadcast tomorrow in our State of the Union broadcast. God bless you.